The first time you heard that opening guitar riff from Satisfaction, or felt the power of Hendrix's Purple Haze, something changed forever. The 1960s didn't just give us great songs, they completely rewrote what rock music could be. From garage bands cranking up distorted amplifiers to studio wizards creating sounds no one had ever heard before, a musical revolution was taking shape. Today, we're exploring 15 groundbreaking 60s songs that gave birth to rock. Number 15, You Really Got Me, by the Kinks, released in 1964.
You really got me going, you got me so I don't know.
You Really Got Me introduced the world to something completely new, the power chord. Ray Davies and his brother Dave weren't trying to create a revolution. They were just frustrated with their sound. Dave took a razor blade to his amplifier speaker, creating that raw, distorted tone that would become rock's signature sound. The song's simple three-chord progression became a template that countless rock bands would follow. What made it revolutionary wasn't complexity, it was the opposite. The Kinks stripped away the ornate arrangements of early 60s pop and replaced them with pure, aggressive energy. This was music that hit you in the chest, not just the ears. The recording session itself was chaotic. The band was still relatively unknown, and their producer initially hated the distorted guitar sound. But that fuzzy, overdriven tone became the DNA of hard rock. Without You Really Got Me, there might never have been Smoke on the Water or Whole Lotta Love.
Oh yeah, you really got me now. You got me.
Number 14, Like a Rolling Stone, by Bob Dylan. When Bob Dylan plugged in his electric guitar at the Newport Folk Festival in 1965, some fans booed. When Like a Rolling Stone hit radio stations that same year, it changed everything. This wasn't just a song, it was a manifesto that proved rock music could be intelligent, literary, and deeply personal all at once.
Like a rolling stone.
At over 6 minutes long, it broke every rule about radio-friendly pop songs. Dylan's stream of consciousness lyrics painted vivid pictures of alienation and social upheaval. The organ intro by Al Kooper, who famously snuck into the session and bluffed his way onto the recording, became one of rock's most recognizable openings. The song's success opened doors for other artists to experiment with longer formats and more sophisticated lyrics. It proved that rock audiences were hungry for substance, not just 3-minute dance numbers. Dylan had taken the energy of rock and roll and married it to the depth of folk music, creating something entirely new.
How does it feel?
Number 13, I Can See for Miles, by The Who.
I can see for miles and miles.
The Who understood that rock music was about more than just sound. It was about power. I Can See for Miles, released in 1967, showcased this philosophy with crushing volume and explosive dynamics. Pete Townshend's guitar work alternated between delicate picking and full-throttle power chords, while Keith Moon's drumming sounded like controlled chaos.
I can see for miles and miles.
This song introduced the concept of the rock anthem, music designed to fill stadiums rather than dance halls. The production was revolutionary for its time, using multiple overdubs and studio effects that were still experimental. The result was a wall of sound that seemed to push against the physical limits of vinyl records.
Well, that says maybe, but you gotta stand trial.
The Who's approach to recording was almost violent in its intensity. They played at volumes that damaged their hearing and destroyed their equipment, but they captured something raw and urgent that polite studio musicians couldn't touch. This was rock as a physical experience, not just an auditory one. Number 12, White Rabbit, by Jefferson Airplane.
And if you go chasing rabbits.
Grace Slick's voice soaring over the psychedelic arrangement of White Rabbit in 1967 signaled that rock music was ready to explore altered states of consciousness. The song's Spanish bolero rhythm was completely unexpected in rock music, while its surreal lyrics opened up new possibilities for songwriting.
And if you go chasing rabbits,
The track built tension like a classical piece, starting with a simple bass line and gradually adding layers until it reached an almost overwhelming climax. This dynamic approach would become a hallmark of progressive rock. The song proved that rock could be theatrical and dramatic, not just energetic. Jefferson Airplane's willingness to experiment with unconventional song structures paved the way for the more adventurous rock music of the late 60s and early 70s. They showed that rock bands could be as creative and unpredictable as jazz musicians, but with the power and accessibility of popular music. Number 11. Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. Keith Richards woke up one morning in 1965 with a riff stuck in his head, the opening to I Can't Get No Satisfaction. That simple three-note phrase, filtered through a fuzz box, became one of rock's most recognizable hooks. But the song was revolutionary for more than just its memorable guitar line. The Stones took the blues foundation that had always influenced rock and roll and pushed it into new territory. Mick Jagger's lyrics captured the frustration and sexual tension that ran beneath the surface of 60s society. This was rock music as social commentary, delivered with a swagger that was both threatening and irresistible. The production was deliberately rough around the edges, maintaining the raw energy of their live performances. While the Beatles were exploring studio sophistication, the Stones proved that rock could be powerful, precisely because it wasn't polished. This aesthetic choice influenced countless garage bands and punk rockers who came later. Number 10. Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson's Good Vibrations from 1966 wasn't just a song, it was a sonic painting. Wilson spent months crafting the track, using the recording studio as an instrument itself. The result was unlike anything that had appeared on radio before, with its unconventional structure and exotic instrumentation, including the otherworldly sound of the theremin. I'm picking up good vibrations she's giving me. The song existed in multiple sections, each recorded separately and then assembled like pieces of a puzzle. This approach to recording, treating the studio as a creative laboratory, rather than just a place to document performances, became standard practice in rock music. Wilson proved that rock albums could be as carefully constructed as classical compositions. The Beach Boys' experimentation with studio techniques opened up new possibilities for rock producers and engineers. The idea that rock music could be as complex and layered as any other art form took root in the mid-60s, largely because of innovations like Good Vibrations. Number 9. Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure. The opening guitar riff of Born to be Wild announced the arrival of heavy metal before the term even existed. Released in 1968, the song's aggressive sound and rebellious lyrics created a template for hard rock that countless bands would follow. The phrase, heavy metal thunder in the lyrics gave the genre its name. Born to be wild. Steppenwolf's approach was straightforward. Take the blues rock foundation and make it heavier, louder, and more dangerous. The guitar tone was thick and distorted. The rhythm section thunderous. This was music for motorcycle rides and late-night drives, capturing the restless spirit of the late 60s counterculture. The song's success proved there was an audience for harder, more aggressive rock music. It helped establish the idea that rock could be dangerous and rebellious, not just entertaining. This attitude became central to heavy metal and punk rock in the following decades. Number 8. Purple Haze by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Jimi Hendrix didn't just play guitar, he reimagined what the instrument could do. Purple Haze, released in 1967, showcased techniques and sounds that seemed impossible at the time. Hendrix used feedback, distortion, and studio effects to create textures that were more like painting than traditional music making. The song's structure was relatively simple, but Hendrix's execution was revolutionary. His guitar work alternated between melodic passages and explosive solos that seemed to bend the laws of physics. The rhythm section of Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell provided a rock-solid foundation that allowed Hendrix to take extraordinary risks. Hendrix's approach to the electric guitar influenced every rock guitarist who came after him. He proved that rock music could be virtuosic and experimental, while still maintaining its raw, emotional power. The guitar hero was born with songs like Purple Haze.
Tomorrow, or just the end of time.
Number 7. A Day in the Life by the Beatles.
I read the news today, oh boy.
The final track on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was unlike anything the Beatles had recorded before. A Day in the Life combined two separate song fragments from John Lennon and Paul McCartney, connected by a massive orchestral crescendo that seemed to tear a hole in conventional pop music.
A crowd of people stood and stared.
The song's production was impossibly ambitious for 1967. The orchestral sections were achieved by having classically trained musicians improvise their way from the lowest note on their instruments to the highest, creating a controlled chaos that was both beautiful and unsettling. The final piano chord seemed to ring forever, thanks to studio manipulation that pushed technology to its limits.
The English army had just won the war.
This track demonstrated that rock music could be as sophisticated and experimental as any avant-garde composition. The Beatles showed that popular music didn't have to be simple or predictable, opening doors for progressive rock and art rock movements that followed. Number 6. Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. Released in 1969, Whole Lotta Love announced Led Zeppelin's arrival with a sound that was both ancient and futuristic. Jimmy Page's guitar riff was built on blues foundations, but delivered with crushing power. The song's middle section dissolved into psychedelic chaos before returning to its thunderous main theme. The production techniques were revolutionary. Page used backward echo, flanging, and other studio effects to create an otherworldly atmosphere. The rhythm section of John Paul Jones and John Bonham provided an unstoppable groove that was both heavy and hypnotic. Robert Plant's vocals soared above it all with primal intensity. Led Zeppelin's approach to rock music, combining blues, folk, and hard rock elements, became the template for heavy metal and hard rock bands throughout the 1970s. They proved that rock music could be both sophisticated and primitive, intellectual and visceral. Number 5. For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield.
Something happening here.
Stephen Stills wrote For What It's Worth in 1966 about the Sunset Strip riots, but the song became an anthem for a generation questioning authority. The gentle acoustic guitar picking and Neil Young's subtle electric guitar lines created a sound that was both intimate and universal.
Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going.
The song's power came from its restraint. In an era when rock was getting louder and more aggressive, Buffalo Springfield proved that rock music could be quiet and still maintain its impact. The message was more important than the volume, and the gentle delivery made the lyrics even more powerful.
Singing songs and a carry inside.
This approach influenced the folk rock movement and showed that rock music could address serious social issues without losing its accessibility. The song demonstrated that rock musicians could be protesters and artists simultaneously.
Now, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going.
Number 4. Summertime Blues by Blue Cheer.
Working on summer just to try to earn a dollar.
Blue Cheer's 1968 version of Eddie Cochran's Summertime Blues took a classic rockabilly song and transformed it into something completely different. Their approach was simple: play everything as loud and heavy as possible. The result was a sound so overwhelming that it practically invented heavy metal single-handedly. The band used massive amplifiers and extreme volume to create a wall of sound that was more about physical impact than musical sophistication. The guitar tone was so distorted it almost became abstract, while the drums hit with the force of construction equipment. This was rock music as a physical assault.
I've got to take the weeks, I got to have a fun vacation.
Blue Cheer's extreme approach showed that rock music could push beyond traditional boundaries of taste and volume. They proved that sometimes the most revolutionary act was simply doing everything harder and louder than anyone had dared before.
There ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
Number 3. White Room by Cream's White Room from 1968
In a white room with black curtains.
showcased the power trio format that would become central to rock music. Eric Clapton's guitar work was both melodic and powerful, while Jack Bruce's bass playing was as prominent as any lead instrument. Ginger Baker's drumming provided complex rhythms that went far beyond simple rock beats. The song's production was spacious and atmospheric, using studio effects to create a sense of vast emptiness that matched the lyrics. The wah-wah guitar effects and flanged vocals created textures that were still relatively new in rock music. This was blues-based rock music that had been stretched and distorted into new shapes. Cream's approach to rock music, 3 virtuoso musicians playing together with maximum intensity, became the model for countless power trios. They proved that rock music could be both technically sophisticated and emotionally powerful. What made Cream revolutionary was how they balanced individual virtuosity with collective power. Each member was a master of their instrument, yet they subordinated their egos to create something larger than the sum of their parts. Bruce's operatic vocals soared over Clapton's liquid guitar lines, while Baker's jazz-influenced drumming anchored everything with mathematical precision. The band's live performances were legendary for their improvisational intensity, with songs stretching far beyond their studio versions as each musician pushed the others to new heights. White Room captured this dynamic perfectly, with its mysterious lyrics creating an emotional landscape that the music filled with equal parts beauty and menace. The song's success proved that rock audiences were sophisticated enough to appreciate complex musicianship without sacrificing the raw energy that made rock exciting. Cream's influence can be heard in everyone from Led Zeppelin to Rush to the White Stripes, all of whom understood that sometimes less is more. When every musician in the band is exceptional, you don't need a cast of thousands to create music that fills stadiums and souls alike. Number 2. Time Has Come Today by the Chambers Brothers.
Young hearts can go their way.
The Chambers Brothers' Time Has Come Today from 1967 was a 7-minute journey that refused to stay in any single genre. The song combined gospel vocals, psychedelic guitar work, and a hypnotic rhythm that seemed to stretch time itself. The ticking clock effects and extended instrumental sections created a sense of urgency and paranoia.
They think we don't listen anyway. Time has come.
The song's length was radical for radio play, but its power was undeniable. The Chambers Brothers proved that rock music could incorporate elements from gospel, soul, and psychedelia without losing its identity. The result was something that sounded like nothing else on the radio. This willingness to experiment with extended forms and diverse influences became central to progressive rock and jazz fusion. The Chambers Brothers showed that rock music could be as adventurous and unpredictable as any experimental music. What made the song particularly groundbreaking was how it captured the social tension of 1967. The clock sounds weren't just atmospheric effects, they represented the urgency of change that was sweeping through American culture. The brothers' gospel background gave the song a spiritual intensity that transcended typical rock rebellion, while the psychedelic elements reflected the consciousness expansion happening in youth culture.
Now the time has come.
The song's structure mirrored its message. It couldn't be contained within traditional formats, because the times themselves couldn't be contained within traditional boundaries. Radio DJs initially struggled with its length, but audiences demanded to hear the full version, proving that listeners were ready for music that challenged conventional formats. The song became a template for how rock could address serious social issues while remaining musically adventurous, influencing everyone from Sly Stone to Pink Floyd in their approach to extended, genre-blending compositions. Number 1. In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida by Iron Butterfly.
Don't you know that I love you?
Iron Butterfly's In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida from 1968 was an accident that changed rock music forever. The 17-minute album version evolved from a much shorter song that got stretched out during a recording session. The result was rock music as an extended journey rather than a brief statement. The song's extended drum solo, guitar passages, and organ sections gave each band member space to explore their instruments fully. This was rock music that demanded attention and patience from its audience. The heavy, repetitive riffs and massive organ sounds created a hypnotic effect that was both meditative and overwhelming.
Don't you know that I'm loving you?
Iron Butterfly's success with this extended format proved there was an audience for longer, more complex rock music. The song helped establish the concept album and influenced the development of progressive rock and heavy metal. They showed that rock music could be as immersive and ambitious as any classical composition. The song's title itself came from a slurred pronunciation of "In the Garden of Eden" during a late-night recording session, which perfectly captured the psychedelic spirit of the times. What made it revolutionary wasn't just its length, but how it transformed rock from entertainment into an experience. Listeners had to commit to the full journey, creating a more intimate relationship between audience and music. The track's success was unprecedented for such an unconventional format, spending months on the charts and becoming one of the first rock albums to go platinum. Record companies suddenly realized that audiences were hungry for music that went beyond the 3-minute pop song, opening the floodgates for bands like Led Zeppelin, Yes, and King Crimson to explore even more ambitious compositions. The song proved that rock could be both heavy and hypnotic, aggressive and meditative, setting the stage for entire genres that wouldn't exist without its groundbreaking example. Before the 60s, pop music had fairly strict boundaries. 3-minute songs, simple structures, clean production. These songs shattered those conventions. For example, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida was 17 minutes long. Nobody had done that in pop music before. The Kinks' distorted power chords in You Really Got Me literally came from slashing a speaker with a razor blade. Jimi Hendrix's feedback and effects in Purple Haze sounded like they were from another planet. These weren't gradual evolutions, they were radical leaps. These innovations became standard tools. Every heavy metal band uses power chords. Extended instrumental sections became normal in progressive rock. Studio experimentation became an art form. Modern rock is still using techniques these songs pioneered. The Beatles' A Day in the Life used avant-garde orchestral crescendos, but was still emotionally powerful. Led Zeppelin mixed blues feeling with cutting-edge production techniques. Once Bob Dylan proved rock could be literary with Like a Rolling Stone, or once The Who showed rock could be theatrical with I Can See for Miles, those possibilities became permanent parts of what rock could do. If you enjoyed this journey through the songs that gave birth to rock, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into music history. What 60s song do you think had the biggest impact on rock music? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.